to Chess and Beyond, Audio Edition. Today, is learning chess difficult? At first glance, it doesn't seem like it. The pieces have clear movements. The objective is simple. Protect your king. Checkmate the opponents. You can learn how the pieces move in less than an hour. A child can understand the basics. A beginner can finish their first game on the same day. So if the rules are simple, why does chess have a reputation for being one of the most difficult games ever created? The answer depends on what we mean by learning. Because learning the rules is one thing. Learning how to think in chess is something entirely different. Learning how the pieces move is not difficult. The rook moves in straight lines. The bishop moves diagonally. The knight jumps. The queen combines power. The king must be protected. Within a short time, the mechanics feel natural. You play a few games. You start recognizing check. You understand basic checkmate patterns. At this stage, chess feels accessible, even elegant. There is a clear structure, clear rules, clear outcomes. And this is important, because chess does not begin as a difficult game. It begins as a simple one. The real difficulty does not appear when you are learning how the pieces move. It appears when you realize that knowing how they move is not enough. And then it happens. You play against someone slightly more experienced. You develop your pieces. You feel confident. The position looks normal. And suddenly, you're lost. A quick tactic, a simple fork, a discovered attack you never saw coming. The game ends in 10 moves. That is usually the first shock. Chess stops feeling simple. There's a scene in The Queen's Gambit where a young player walks confidently into an opening trap and is defeated almost instantly. It's not dramatic calculation. It's preparation meeting innocence. And that moment is familiar to almost every beginner. You realize there are patterns hidden beneath the surface. Traps, themes, ideas that experienced players see immediately. And for the first time, you understand something important. Chess is not only about moving pieces correctly, it's about seeing what is not obvious. After that first shock, something changes. You begin to understand that chess is not a game of single moves. It's a game of consequences. Every move creates weaknesses. Every pawn push leaves something behind. Every piece you move stops protecting another square. The illusion that chess is just logical starts to fade. Because logic in chess is layered. There are tactics. There is strategy. There are plans that stretch 10 moves ahead. There are quiet moves that matter more than flashy ones. You start noticing that stronger players don't necessarily calculate everything. They recognize patterns. They feel when a position is dangerous. They sense when something is misplaced. And that realization is both exciting and intimidating. Exciting, because you see the depth. Intimidating, because depth means distance. You are no longer learning rules. You are learning perception. At this point, most players face a quiet decision, not a dramatic one, not announced, but real. You can continue playing casually, enjoy a few games on the weekend, accept wins and losses without digging deeper. Or you can step into something more serious. You start watching videos, studying openings, reviewing your own games. You begin to care about rating, and that changes everything. Because the moment you care about improvement, chess stops being just entertainment. It becomes feedback. You start measuring yourself. You compare your rating to others. You analyze your mistakes. You replay blunders in your head. And now the game is not only on the board, it's inside you. That fork in the road is subtle, but it defines how difficult chess will feel from that moment forward. Once rating enters the picture, the emotional landscape changes. A number appears next to your name. It goes up, it goes down, and suddenly, it feels like a reflection of who you are. For most players, it becomes motivation. For some, it becomes pressure. And in the online world where everything is immediate and anonymous, a new temptation appears. Cheating. Not because people don't know the rules, not because they don't understand the pieces, but because they struggle with the feeling of losing. Losing rating, losing status, losing the image they built of themselves. Cheating in chess is rarely about the game itself. It's about ego protection. It's about avoiding the discomfort of being outplayed, avoiding the frustration of stagnation, avoiding the long, slow process of genuine improvement. And ironically, cheating removes the very thing that makes chess rewarding. The struggle, the growth, the earned clarity. Because learning chess is not difficult in the beginning. It becomes difficult when your ego gets involved. After the excitement of improvement comes something less glamorous, plateaus. You study, you play, you review your games, and yet, your rating barely moves. This is where many players quietly give up, because progress in chess is not linear. At first, improvement feels fast. You learn basic tactics. You stop hanging pieces. You understand simple openings. Then growth slows down. Improvements become subtle, less visible, harder to measure. You are making better decisions, but only slightly better. You are spotting ideas, but sometimes too late. And this phase feels frustrating because the effort is visible, but the reward is not. What many don't realize is that during plateaus, your brain is reorganizing patterns. Connections are forming quietly. Recognition is sharpening. Mistakes are becoming less frequent, even if not eliminated. Learning chess becomes difficult here, not because it is impossible, but because it demands patience without immediate applause. Frustration is not a side effect of learning chess. It is part of it. You will lose winning positions. You will miscalculate simple tactics. You will repeat mistakes you promised yourself you had already fixed. And sometimes, you will lose to players you feel you should beat. That word, should, becomes dangerous. Because chess does not reward expectations. It rewards precision. Frustration often comes from the gap between how strong we believe we are and how accurately we actually play. And that gap is uncomfortable. You begin to question yourself. You compare your progress to others. You wonder why improvement feels slower than it should. But here is something important. Frustration is usually a sign that you care. And caring is the fuel of mastery. The difficulty of chess is not only intellectual, it is emotional. You are not just learning moves, you are learning how to tolerate imperfection. And then quietly something changes. Not dramatically, not in a viral tournament win, but in a single game. You begin to understand a position without panic. You see a plan forming. You recognize a familiar structure. You avoid a tactic not by luck, but because you sense the danger. And for the first time, chess feels different, less chaotic, more coherent. You are no longer reacting to moves. You are interpreting them. This is one of the first real rewards of learning chess. Not rating, not trophies. Clarity. The moment when the board stops feeling like a battlefield and starts feeling like a language you are beginning to speak. That feeling compensates for many frustrating losses. Because you realize something important. You are not just playing better. You are thinking better. There is a reason chess feels demanding. It stretches several parts of the brain at once. Pattern recognition, working memory, long-term planning, emotional regulation. When you play, you are not only calculating moves, you are filtering noise, holding variations in mind, suppressing impulsive decisions, anticipating consequences. Learning chess strengthens these processes over time. Not in a magical way, not instantly, but gradually. Neuroscience calls this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to adapt and reorganize through repeated effort. The discomfort you feel while struggling with a difficult position is not a sign of failure. It is often a sign of cognitive strain. And cognitive strain is how growth happens. This is why learning chess can feel exhausting. You are not just memorizing information, you are rewiring how you process complexity. So, is learning chess difficult? Not at the beginning. The rules are simple, the pieces are clear, the objective is elegant. What makes chess difficult is not understanding how the knight moves. It is managing uncertainty. You never have complete information. You never know with absolute certainty if your plan will work. You must decide anyway. Chess is a game of imperfect decisions under pressure. And that pressure touches something deeper than calculation. It touches ego, patience, discipline, humility. The real difficulty of chess is staying engaged when the results fluctuate. It is continuing to study when improvement feels invisible. It is accepting that even on your best day, you will still make mistakes. Learning chess is not hard because it is complicated. It is hard because it asks you to confront yourself. So, is learning chess difficult? Yes, but not in the way most people imagine. It is not difficult to learn how the pieces move. It is difficult to accept that knowing the rules is only the beginning. Chess becomes challenging when you care, when you measure yourself, when you decide to improve. It tests your patience. It exposes your ego. It rewards your discipline. And somewhere along the way, you realize something unexpected. The difficulty is the point, because every plateau, every frustrating loss, every uncomfortable realization is shaping how you think. Chess is easy to start, hard to master, and deeply rewarding for those who stay long enough to see what it teaches. If you remain curious, if you remain patient, the difficulty stops feeling like an obstacle and starts feeling like growth. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, consider following us and sharing your thoughts.